Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and we're back on with the older Project Mildrids Ashtray. Now, in the last video, I think if I remember correctly, we was looking around this area here. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of a cough and I'm still not quite got over it. I've got a little bit of a sore throat. Basically, we've got some 7400 series logic round here. Now, these bottom ones are to do with, I think, addressing some of the ports down here. And I know in Gadget UK's Model B repair video, actually one of them was his issue. I thought it's a good place to start, really. So I did I've replaced all four of these with new tested ICs. I had a right fun with this one down here. I made a right hash of it, I must admit. Basically, I struggled getting that one there out. I really did struggle. I tried getting it out in one piece, and basically I thought I got all the solder from round it, and I tried winkling it to see if it was free, and I heard a cracking noise and I cracked the IC. So at that point I did manage to actually get it out and just leave two legs where it had cracked in there, and I heated them up and pulled them out, and I didn't do any damage to the board at that point. I don't know what it is with this board, but the solder's horrible on it. I don't know whether it's whatever's attacked it in the past or whatever, but the solder is, no matter how much heat you use on it, it just doesn't seem to flow. I've tried adding more solder, sucking it out, repeatedly doing that. It's just horrible stuff. So I thought, right, I'm not worried about the ICs because they're easy to replace. These, they're not like they're anything custom. They're just 74 series logic. So I thought, right, I'll snip the legs off, I'll pull the IC out, and I'll desolder the legs individually, which is a much safer way if you want to protect the board. Problem being, I couldn't find my very fine wire cutters to snip through the legs. Now, there is another way you can do it, which is to use like a Dremel type attachment and actually use a Dremel to saw through the legs. The only problem with that is you leave tiny little conductive dust particles everywhere, and it's an absolute mare to clean up. So I don't like doing that. I know a few people that do that technique, and it does get the chip off cleanly, and you can then just get the legs out. But like I said, you leave little conductive dust particles absolutely everywhere. So I thought, right, old technique that I've used lots of times is basically to take a sharp craft knife or X-Acto knife, something like that, with a really sharp blade on it, and basically work your way along the IC like that, cutting into it until you eventually cut through the legs. And actually, once you've done one side, you can bend the IC up, and with a little bit of persuasion, just snap the other side off and then take the legs out. So I thought that's the approach I'm going to do. Unfortunately, I wasn't paying attention, I wasn't being careful enough, and as I went through on this side here, I actually went right down and I went into the PCB, and I cut through like 3 traces on that side, like that, literally like that, and went straight through where the legs are and cut right through the PCB, at which point I did a fair bit of swearing. Anyway, I took the IC, I managed to then obviously get the IC out, and I pulled an old choke, a little transformer like that off an old switch mode power supply, and they have some very nice fine wire inside them. So I basically pulled one of them off a scrap board apart, got some of the nice fine wire out of that, and used that basically to bridge the 3 traces underneath there that I'd actually broken. And you can just, I mean, I don't know, I'll zoom you in, see if you can actually make this out, but it's not. I'll zoom you in as far as I can go, and then we'll get down onto where the horror happened. Right, are we on you there? Basically, it's you can't even see where I'm. Where are we now? Ah, there we go. Basically, it's that IC there that we're talking about, and I'll try and tip the board up, see if I can show it you. This is going to be really tricky to show, I think. How I'm going to, but basically 3 tracers down there, one like there and there, are severed through on that side there, like I said, so I bridged them with a piece of that very fine wire underneath, and then put the IC socket on. It checks out and everything for continuity, but it's one of them really annoying things that you don't want to happen when you're working on this stuff. But unfortunately, sometimes, no matter how careful you're trying to be, it's what happens. And so basically, yeah. So I put sockets in for that was already socketed. That one there. Let me zoom you in a little bit more. You're going to be getting sick if I keep doing this, aren't you? Right, there we go. So basically that was already in a socket, so I socketed up that and that, but after the mare with that one, and after the disaster with that one, I actually went and got myself another pair of really fine cutters, and I just cut that off and took it out that way, and bit of a pain really, because then I discovered, although I had all these in stock, I didn't have any of them in stock, so I had to wait a little while for a couple to arrive in the post. But I've replaced all these now, and I'll show you on the screen. Get you up on the screen now. Let's zoom you out a little bit. If we switch on, yeah, there we go. We've got exactly the same thing. We just get a blank screen. There's a little bit of interference on it, you see every now and again. And another problem I've found, yeah, got that flashing starting as well, is after it's been running for a minute or two, we seem to lose the clock. The clock signal goes from a nice waveform to a horrible interference. You can see the waveform's still there, but there's loads and loads of interference on it, and obviously at that point you'll lose the display on the screen. So we've got something that's possibly a capacitor or something like that that's breaking down. That's something else we're going to have to look at. I have dug the trusty old logic probe out. I've got the logic probe hooked up to it now, but it's not really showing us much more than what the scope was showing us. Basically, the clock's running. At least, like I say, it runs for a few minutes until the fault develops. But the clock's running, but we don't seem to have any activity on the address lines or the data lines. If we look at the address lines here, let's look at A11 because that's the easy one to get to. As we can see, it's just, I don't know if you can make that out on the camera, but it's just up high. We've just got a 1 there, high. And if we look, if we go further down, like I said, that's A10. Again, it's just stuck high. If we look on the data lines, let's see here, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up, I think. If we look on there, this is data line 7. And you can see just the same, it's just stuck high. Now, there we go. We've lost the clock there. So it takes that about a time, and like I said, and then we just seem to lose the clock. And if I probe the clock now, like I said, it's there, but it's just like a horrible interference all over what the actual clock's meant to be doing. But I don't think that fault is related to the fault that we're having here, because like I said, for them few minutes before something's obviously warmed up, I'm just going to switch it off actually. The clock is running and the waveform looks just like it does on my working beep. So like I said, I don't think that's a separate issue that we've got. we've still got something which is pulling both the data and the address line high. Now, I must admit, I was fiddling a little while back after I just finished changing these. I haven't changed that one yet. That one was still the original in the board, but I don't think that's really anything. I've changed them three out, and I hadn't actually removed that one at that point. I was messing about with this and had the logic probe on it, and I did have it at one point where I was probing, and a couple of the address lines went logic level low and stuck at logic level low. Now when I reset the power, they just come back up as logic level high, and they don't do anything at all. They don't go low then high and then lock at high. They literally just come up high, as though something is pulling everything up high. Now I am suspecting one other IC, which is and I'm not sure, it's just from what I've been looking at the circuit diagram and the fact that it does concern both the address line and the data line, and that's IC20 here, which is a 74 LS 139. Now I have a feeling I might have some of them in stock. I will have a look. If not, I really don't want to have to try and take this out of the board again and without damaging. I'd rather, now I've got the new snips, and we just literally just snip the IC off and pull the legs out. So I usually just try and desolder and keep the IC in one piece, but this board's being such a mare that I risk doing something like that again, where I slipped through and made a right mess of the board. Like I said, it was repairable, but I don't want to risk doing that again. So I'm going to check, see if I've got any of them in stock. I have a feeling that I have got quite a few of them in stock, and then I'll do what I did with these as well. I didn't just shove these in the board and hope for the best. I actually ran them through on my IC analyzer first, just to confirm that the IC analyzer was saying yes, they're working, which it did. I'll do the same when I replace that. I'll get a new one. I'll run it through the IC analyzer first, just see whether the IC analyzer is saying there's anything wrong with it, and then I'll stick it in there. Like I said, if the board was better and it was easy to get these off, I'd pull that off, and again I'd stick it in the IC analyzer, and that'd tell me whether, well, it'd give me a good indication whether the IC is good or not. It's not 100% accurate, I will admit, but it's fairly accurate. Yeah, so I don't really know what much more to do on this little update. Like I said, I will endeavour to see if I can find one of them, and I think the next thing I'll do is possibly swap that out. Other things I have done, I have tried messing with the RAM jumper setting. Basically, in the setting that it's in now, with the jumper facing backwards north, it's configured that you've got RAM bank 0 and RAM bank 1 both working as a 32K system. If you pull the jumper off completely, it disables RAM bank 1 and just allows the computer to run as a 16K computer on RAM bank 0. Now if you put the jumper back on, but you put it in the south position, as in facing the front of the computer, excuse me, oh, that disables RAM bank 0 and enables RAM bank 1, so allows it to again run as a 16K computer, but just using RAM bank 1 instead of RAM bank 0. So it's a good way of identifying basically if you've got a RAM fault. I mean, it's not completely conducive because there's ICs in there, I think, which could fail, which could affect both, which, I mean, that's going to be my next port of call after I've gone to IC20 there. I could be barking completely up a wrong tree with that. It's just from looking at the circuit diagram and trying to think logically that it could be a possibility, and like I say, I have a feeling I've got some in stock. It's not as though it's a custom part or anything, so it's an easy one to rule out. I'd really like to be able to see something, a cursor on the screen, and then I'll see if I can address that other issue with it losing the clock, which I'm kind of thinking, with the fact that it's a temperature dependent thing, It could be an IC that's going, it could be something like the 555 that's going flaky, but I think it's possibly more likely to be capacitor related, and one of the electrolytics or one of these tantalums is on its last legs and it's breaking down after a minute or two. Those are really my my only thoughts at the moment. I mean, if anyone else has got any ideas at the moment, I'm more than welcome to take suggestions from people. That's something else. Someone did mention that they had a spare video ULA that they might be willing to part with. I can't remember who it was in my comments, or I can't find the comments actually at the moment who it was. So if you watch my videos and you do still have a spare ULA flying around, it'd be most welcome, so then I can actually get my other beeb set up and working, and I've actually got something I can keep taking measurements off without having to keep pulling this one apart to swap the ULAs over, because I'm sure I'm going to damage something. Keep pulling them in and out of the boards. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. Like I said, it was just a quick little update because I know a few people were interested on how I'm getting on with the Project Mildrids Ashtray. Like I said, that's going to be my next port of call, changing IC20 there, and then if that doesn't make any difference, I'm going to start looking around like what multiplexes the RAM, see if it's something around there that's causing the issue. It's going to be a mare, this one. I was reading actually, I've got the original BBC Micro official service manual, and I've been reading. That's been my bedtime reading, and apparently they had a device called a PET, and basically it was quite an expensive piece of diagnostics gear, and you basically plugged the ailing BBC into this PET, and it would pretty much tell you what had failed on it. But obviously I don't have access to a PET, and apparently many repair centres, it was so expensive they didn't have them, and they literally said it in the service manual. It basically says you can repair one of these things with a multimeter, a logic probe and an oscilloscope. So I've got a multimeter, a logic probe and an oscilloscope, so hopefully eventually we will figure out what's wrong with this bloody thing, and we will get it going. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. Like I say, I hope you've enjoyed this little BBC ramble, so thanks for watching and goodbye.